It's actually so dark in here. There's not a singular bit of sunlight to be had outside. Right, Dorian? So it's kind of dark. We must film anyways because this video is already going to be up late, which sorry about that, but I feel like that's the norm towards the end of the year. I'm going to be better next year. I really am. Today is my second half of the year TBR Retrospective. We are going to look back at my TBRs from July to December, and I'm going to go through what I read, what I didn't read, and if there are ones that I didn't read, if I'm still interested in reading them, if I read them really quickly, what I thought about them. Like, I'm not going to like give in-depth reviews because otherwise this video is already going to be long and that would make it even longer. But yeah, I just think it's fun to look back at the year, see how I actually did on my TBRs because I obviously do them monthly on my channel here, and I will also then go over my 24 books to read in 2024 TBR and see how we fared on that. Spoiler alert, not well. But anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into July. Actually, also let me grab my Alani. Keep it down here. Okay. First up, Our Little Secret by QB Tyler. I did read this. I absolutely loved it. So yes, check one off the list right off the bat. Five Brothers by Penelope Douglas. No, I have not read it yet. I'm currently reading it. I've been currently reading it since July. You know, I have no excuse. I have not finished this yet, but obviously it is a very high priority read for me. Starting Line by michaemarieauthor. That's obviously my book. I do put my own books on my TBR so that way I can just check them off because obviously I read them a bunch of times. And yeah, so Starting Line, yes, that was my standalone sports romance that came out back in July. It follows an Olympic swimmer and an Olympic gymnast, and it's bad boy, good girl vibes, dislike to love, forced proximity. They're filming a documentary together on their way to their next Summer Olympics. Charming Like Us by Kristen Becca-Ritchie. This is the 7th book in the Like Us series. Yes, I did read it. Yes, I loved it. Not my favorite of the series. That still stays with Tangled Like Us and Alphas Like Us, books 3 and 4, but I did really enjoy Charming Like Us. The Lies We Steal by Monty J. Have not read this one yet. Still want to read it. I actually downloaded it and I was getting ready to start it. And then I saw right away on the trigger warning page for animal violence. And then I was like, well, I can't start this. Like, that is my one and only trigger. So then I had posted on my Instagram story being like, hey, can y'all let me know like what this is or like whatever, if I'll be okay? Because specifically, my triggers really, I mean with all animals, but like specifically really with like dogs and cats. Specifically cats, obviously, we know this. But I think I'm actually in the clear to like read this one, but I just have not gone back to it since I like saw that. The Bachelor by Marnie Mann. Yes, I did read this. Yes, I really enjoyed it. I still think the first one, The Lawyer, is still my favorite in the series, but yes, I did really like this one a lot. I just love Marnie Mann's books. I haven't read one that I haven't loved. One that I didn't read, Bite the Woman That Feeds by Penelope Barsetti. I still do want to read this. However, one thing that I think I have learned about myself over the course of this year is that I just don't think I like vampires. I just don't really think vampires are for me. And this obviously is a vampire book. I think it sounds really great. It's one that you guys had recommended to me, but I still have not read it. Apex by Nova Kane. Still have not read this one. Still do want to read this one. Ruthless Rage by Casey Keene. Still want to read this one. Actually, I think this was one that did end up in my TBR jar of your guys' recs, which I'll be starting to add to my TBRs in 2025. So yes, still want to read this one. Choosing Theo by Victoria Aveline. So I didn't like DNF this book. I mean, I did kind of DNF it. It was like a soft DNF. It wasn't like I'll never go back. It was more so like I was so slumpy. I was so slumpy this last entire half of the year, but especially in July. Obviously, that was coming off of finishing God of War and therefore Legacy of Gods, and it just ruined me. So I did start this one thinking that like maybe I needed to switch it up and like choose an alien. I wasn't in the mood for it, so I still do want to go back again. I think this is one that's in my TBR jar of your guys' recs, but I have not finished it. The Sacrifice by Chantal Tessier, still the only book in the Lord series that I have to read, and I still have not read it yet. Still really want to. Raw by Bella Aurora, same thing. Still really want to read it. Still haven't read it. I have special editions of it, and that's why specifically like I really want to read it, because I want to know if I want to keep these special editions of them or if I want to like pass them on to the next. Flurry by Allison Rhymes. I can't remember. I think this one's a sports romance, isn't it? But I can't quite remember what it is. I've read one Allison Rhymes book and I loved it. It was Deconstructing Delilah. I think, did I read that last year? I do want to read more from her, but I can't remember specifically offhand what this is, but I'll say sure, still want to read it. And Crow by A. Zavarelli. Have not read this. This was the one from my physical TBR jar that I added. Yeah, I did not read this. I still have not read this entire series. Own it. Still want to read it. Haven't gotten to it yet. And we are into August. I read 4. That's not that bad. Green Light by Jessie Hall. Still have not read. Still want to read. This is a step-sibling dark romance. Yeah. Still haven't gotten around to it. Madness by Chantal Tessier. Yes, I read this. Yes, I loved it. This and Carnage are my 2 favorites in the Lord series. I just loved Hayden specifically. I really loved our heroine as well. What, Charlotte? That was her name, right? I loved it. Anecdote by Shea Ruby. Still have not read this. Still want to. I haven't read anything from Shea Ruby yet, and I have a couple of books from her on my TBR. Still really want to. The Heartbreaker by Sarah Kate. Same thing. This was one of Sarah Kate's newest releases this year. I have read the majority of Sarah Kate's backlist, except I'm now behind on a couple of her new releases, and I still haven't read Gravity, and whatever the second one is with that duet. But I still want to read this, just have not gotten around to it. Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. Again, I have not read this yet. It's in the TBR jar of your Rex. I do want to read it at some point. It's just, very intimidating. They're such long books. And yeah, I have not gotten around to it yet. Unhinged Titan by Evie Olson. This is a novella, right? Is this the coach athlete hockey novella, I think? Which again, I think I had it downloaded and I opened it up and I want to say, does this one also have a trigger warning for animal violence in it? That then I was like, I'm going to put that aside. And then I never got back around to it. I'd have to double check on that, but I want to say yes. Because like I said, that is pretty much my only trigger. So like if something has that in it, I just don't know if I can do it. Hollow by Karina Halley. Still have not read this. Still want to read this one. I've read quite a few more by Karina Halley. Okay, this next one I'm not going to talk about because I didn't like it. So, I don't include that. I didn't even include it, obviously, in my August wrap-up. So yeah, we're going to keep it moving from that one. Again, 5 Brothers. Yeah, no. We'll get to it. Prisoned by Marnie Mann. Nope, still have not read this. Still really want to. Pretty much all of Marnie Mann's books are on my backlist, but this is her dark romance. And I think they're captive together. Still really want to read it. Still have not. The Rebel by Sophie Lark, the second book in the Kingmaker series, which now I'm pretty sure is called Kingmakers Year 2, traditionally published, but I have these versions of them, so it's still called The Rebel. Still really want to read this, still want to read this whole series. I just have not gotten around to reading any more of them after the air. Oh my gosh, look at Dorian back there. He wants that closet door open. The Dixon Rule by Elle Kennedy. Yes, I read this. Yes, I loved it. I don't think I actually read this one in August. No, I didn't actually. I think I read it in November, but obviously went back and was able to check it off. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, 5 stars. You're going to be seeing that one on a list of mine very, very soon. Our Little Secret by QB, of course, I did read this one. We already talked about that and loved that. And Devil's Lair by Anna Zaris. So this one, again, was my physical TBR book of this month. I did not read it. I don't think I read a single one of these. No. Yeah, trage. No, did not read that yet. September, again, I had Madness by Chantal Tessier on here. Already know, read it, loved it. Secret Lucidity by E.K. Blair. Did read this one, absolutely loved it. Like I said, I think this was my favorite book that I ended up reading in September. So really enjoyed it. Coach Athlete, Forbidden Romance, but very emotional. Fearless Like Us by Kristen. Did I not read this one? Why did I not have it checked? Oh no, because Fearless Like Us is book 9. So no, have not read this one. Book 9 in the Like Us series. I actually am currently started it. I just kind of put it aside because I have a library book that's due first. So I'm currently reading that one. But I am on this one and I will literally finish all of the Like Us series. Dorian, you don't need to go in there, I promise you. Also, that door has literally been open all day long. I shut it to film and now he's decided that he needs to go in it. That door stays open because they can't stand having doors closed to them. But the second I close it to film, now he needs it back open. Next up, Omega's Obsession by Sarah Blue. Did not read this. Still would be on my radar. I'm not a huge Omegaverse person, but again, like I said, I've been slumpy this year, so I've been trying anything. I'm do I need to try different sub-genres of romance? What do I need to do to get me out of this slump? So I was maybe I'll go back to Omegaverse. Yeah, I don't think this is a high priority read for me just because I'm not huge into Omegaverse, but I'm definitely still keeping it on the radar. The Muse by L.M. Halloran. Yes, I did read this one. Yes, I really enjoyed it. It's a student-teacher or professor-student romance. Did really like it. Would recommend. Tactical Surrender. Oh, this was a Raylo fanfic that I downloaded, but again, I didn't write down, I think because I had forgotten who it was by. It's a Raylo fanfiction that I had downloaded. I still have downloaded it and I have not read it yet, but I was really in the mood for fan fiction again, and I just never got around to it, but I still would because I love Raylo, so still would get around to that. The Penalty Box by Odette Stone. How many TBRs has this been on? Haven't read it yet. Still really want to. It's the third book in the Vancouver Wolf series. I've read the first two. Absolutely loved them both 5 stars. And for some reason, I just have not gotten around to the second two. Of Heartbreak and Harmony by Britt Benson. This one, is it an MFM or no? Am I wrong on that? Is it just MF? But I think it's like Rockstar. I love Rockstar romances. I feel like obviously for the past like couple of years, I have not really been reading Rockstar romance recently, obviously just because with writing Whisper Me Nothings, like I just kind of had to take a pause on Rockstars, but I am not going to be working on a Rockstar romance for a while now until I jump into Reed's book, which won't be until next year. So honestly, I could probably get around to this one. Ward D by Frida McFadden. So funny thing about this one, this is the wrong Frida McFadden book that I was thinking about. I put down Ward D, but then I gave the description of, I think it's called The Inmate, and that's the one that I actually wanted to read. And I started it and I never finished it. It's not even like a DNF. I don't know why I didn't finish it, quite frankly. But yeah, I would still go back and read that. I love reading a thriller every now and then. I mean, right now I'm reading one by Ruth Ware. So I don't mind incorporating a thriller into the mix every now and then, especially when I'm feeling slumpy. So I would keep probably The Inmate. I don't know what Ward D is. I don't know why I thought that was the book that I was thinking of when I made this, but there's that. Tempted by Deception by Rena Kent. Still have not read. That's the second book in the Deception trilogy. I for sure plan on finishing that at some point. I really enjoyed the first book. I love Rena Kent's books. I just never got around to it. Forgive Me, Father by Katerina St. Clair. Again, same thing. Still one that I'm really interested in reading. It's a priest romance and like a forbidden romance. Again, I just never got around to it, but keeping it on the radar. Another Bite the Woman That Feeds by Penelope Barsetti. I was really set on reading that book. Obviously, I haven't read it. A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halley, one that I did read, and I did really enjoy it. It's a dark Little Mermaid, like, pirate book. I did really enjoy that one a lot. Not my favorite by Karina Halley. My Life in Shambles still holds that spot, but I did really like this one. And Soul of a Witch by Harley LaRue. I still have not read that, and I don't know why. I love all of Harley LaRue's books, and I've just put off Soul of a Witch for so long, but still have not gotten around to that one. Now to October, Black Sunshine by Karina Halley. I did read this one. And like, here's the thing, objectively, I think it's a good book. My personal enjoyment of it was not the highest because again, it was kind of this book that made me realize that maybe vampires just aren't my thing. Cause like anytime, I don't know what, in dark romance, like mafia romance, if anytime like blood is mentioned, I'm so unbothered by it, don't even notice it. Even, like in certain books, when they're like doing stuff with blood, not bothered by it. For some reason though, when it's vampires, I'm like, ew. I don't know how to explain it, but I think I just realized that like this book kind of helped me realize that just I don't think vampires are for me. So objectively, I think it's a good book, and that's why like I talked about it in my wrap up. I'd still recommend it to you if you like vampires. Me personally though, it's not my favorite by Karina Halley. Gothicana by Runex. Still have not read this book. Still have not read it. I don't want to talk about it. It's been on my list for years. We'll get to it eventually. The Striker by Anna Huang. This one was her new release in October. I still have not gotten around to it. I do have it downloaded on my Kindle though. A high priority read. I for sure will be reading it at some point. Y'all know how much I love Anna Huang's books. Chained Hands by Teal Smith. Again, another one that I want to read because I have a special edition of, and I think these special editions are stunning. And I want to read this, but I did not get around to it. Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. This was my favorite book that I read in October. Again, you'll be seeing it on another list of mine. It's a dark academia romance. Absolutely loved it. It was a great time. We have another 5 Brothers by Penelope Douglas. Not talking about it. Soul of a Witch by Harley LaRue. Not talking about it again. Damn. So many of these books I put on month after month and just never get around to. Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. I still really want to read this one. I just didn't get around to it. And then all of a sudden it like blew up. And then I was like, well, I don't feel like reading it now. It's a toxic trait of mine, okay? I found it scrolling through the Kindle store. I was actually on FaceTime with Sam from Sam Reads a Little because we were going to read Nocticadia together, and we did. And so I was downloading Nocticadia. And then I saw that like in the little like other books you may like, and I was like, have you read this one? She was like, no. And I read the description. I was like, this sounds so good. And then literally like a week later, it blew up. And then I was like, well, I don't want to read it anymore. So I have not read that yet, but I do still want to. I was just, being, I don't know, annoying about it. Master of Salt and Bones by Carrie Lake. Still have not read it. Still want to. Again, it's one that's been on my TBR for literally years. The Pucking Coach's Daughter by S. Mastery. Again, have not read it. I want to read an S. Mastery book so bad. Like, I don't get why I haven't, because she writes hockey romances and dark romances, which are both completely up my alley. Don't ask me why I haven't read them yet. I truly don't know. But yes, I do still really want to read that. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarrow. So I reread this one. I listened to it on audio to prepare to read Iron Flame, because then Onyx Storm comes out next month. I still have not read Iron Flame yet, though, but I loved my reread of Fourth Wing. Fated by Liza James. Still have not read this one. Still really want to at some point. I actually own it. No Place to Hide by Harper Ashley and Ren Hawthorne. I think this is like that novella, right? With like the Ferris wheel on it. I'm pretty sure this is just like a Halloween novella. And yes, I did read this one. And yes, I enjoyed it. It was just, I mean, literally like 40 pages of smut. You get what you're going in for, you know? And then my one that I did not read from my physical TBR, And Fury Lies Mischief by Alma Jones. Still have not read it. Okay, now moving on to November. Spoiler alert, I read 2 singular books from my November TBR because I only actually read 2 books in November. November was my worst reading month I've ever had. So you know what? I will start out with the 2 that I did read. A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halley, we already talked about. And Take What You Want by me. Again, this I put on my November TBR because it was originally supposed to be out in November. It did not end up going out in November. It went out in December 18th, but it was on there, and obviously I included that because I've read it like how many bunches of times, and it's the 3rd book in the Whispering Nothing series, but can be read as a standalone. It is a rock star, brother's best friend, forced proximity, second chance romance. I have never had more fun writing a trope than I had writing Second Chance. I loved that. I want to write all the Second Chance. I want to read all the Second Chance now. Like, it just created so much angst. It was so fun. Anyways, so yeah, those are the 2 that I did read, and then all the rest of these did not. So let's just kind of, and a lot of them we've already talked about, so let's just kind of run them down. The Striker by Anna Huang, Born Darkly by Trisha Wolfe. Still want to read this one, still have not. I think she falls in love with a serial killer. Like, she's maybe an FBI agent or something, and she falls in love with a serial killer that she's like interviewing or something in prison. Still want to read that. My Darling Arrow by Saffron Kent. Still really want to read this. This entire series is high priority for me, but this one is a sister's boyfriend soccer romance. The Lies We Steal by Monty J. Tempted by Deception by Raina Kent. Crow by A. Zavarelli. The Penalty Box by Odette Stone. We've already talked about all those. There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. This is one of her dark romances, but it's not in her Mafia series. I think he's a serial killer, right? And she's like an art collector or something. I don't know. Once again, I own them. Still have not gotten around to them. Blindside by Candy Steiner. This is one that I had on my TBR like a year, 2 years ago. Still want to read it. It's like lessons, football, sports romance. The Naked Fisherman by Julianne. Again, still want to read it. Still a priority of mine. Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarrow. Story and Ray. Again, still want to read. Then in December, we've read two of December so far. So I mean, I guess a little better. Tenure by Violet Pierce. Yes, I did read this. Yes, I enjoyed it. It's a student teacher novella. It's like 200 pages. I did really enjoy it. It's just like a fun time. It's kind of what you expect. You know, obviously with the student teacher trope, I personally I want them to fight a little bit. I want them to be really scared about breaking the rules. I love all of that tension and stuff. You're not going to get that in this, but I forgive it because it's a novella and you got to move things along. So like if my mind going into it was prepared for that, and I had a great time with it. Again, The Striker by Anna Huang. Yikes. Hexed by Emily McIntyre. Still have not read that. Still really want to. This was a new release, and I have the physical copy. Love it. I'm so excited to read it at some point. I've loved the Never After series, and I love Little Mermaid retelling specifically. Again, Pucking Coach's Daughter by S. Mastery. Chained Hands by T.L. Smith. Sinners Anonymous by Psalm Sketcher. I do still want to read this, and again, it's because I'm a Mystic Box subscriber, so I have the special editions that they made of them. They're really beautiful, and again, I want to know, like, am I keeping them, or am I going to pass them along at some point? Gifted to His Dad by Jay Wilder. I did read that. It's a novella. It's an MFM novella. A girl who gets taken home by her boyfriend for Christmas, and he gives her to his stepdad. The Wallflower by J.L. Beck. Yes, still want to read, still haven't read. This was a recommendation from Lizelle, I think. And I can't remember even what this one was about, which is kind of crazy, but we're keeping it on there, especially since it's so recent. Torment by Dylan Page. I'm honestly shocked that it took until December for that book to pop up, because I put that book on so many TBRs and I still have not read it yet. The Torment Duet, still really high priority for me, just have not read it yet. Five Brothers, we're not even talking about it. A Very Krampus Holiday by Katie Robert. I did not read this one. Novella. And I never got around to it. And now it's like after Christmas, so I don't think I probably will. So probably bookmark that for next year. Fearless Like Us by Kristen Becker-Ritchie. As I said, I'm currently reading that. My Darling Arrow, again, by Saffron Kent. Nope. And Saint by Sierra Simone. Again, no, have not gotten around to it. Still a high priority item, though, of mine. And now we have my 24 books to read in 2024. Shall we see how we did? Ha ha ha. Three. So, let's rapid fire. So, you know what? Let's do the 3 that I did read quickly. The Rest of the Story by Tal Bauer. I did read this one. I read it back at the beginning of the year in January. It is an hockey romance. Very emotional time. I really enjoyed this book a lot. And yeah, did read that one. Breath Mints and Battle Scars by Onyx and Elm. It is a Hermione fan fiction. I did read it. I absolutely loved it. It's an honorable mention for me. It didn't quite crack my top 10, but it was like spot 11. It was, you know, when I like combine all my books that I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to make my top 10 list out of. Let me gather all the ones. And I had 11 books that I wanted to include. And this is the one that just fell short. So I absolutely loved it. Not my favorite Hermione fan fiction. That still stands with Manacled, obviously, and Secrets and Masks. But I loved Breath Mints and Battle Scars. And then Hidden Scars by Andy Jackson. Another book that you're going to see on a list of mine very soon. And another hockey romance. This one, they're roommates. Yeah, I absolutely loved this book. Read that. Okay, now the rest of these did not read. So let's run them down, shall we, and see what we failed at. Soul of a Witch by Harley LaRue, we already know. Hush by Liza James. Yep, sadly no. The Kingmaker by Kennedy Ryan. Sadly no. Was I Ever Real by Naomi Loud. Still no. Raw by Bella Aurora. Nope. Insta Love by Danielle Allen. Nope. There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. We already know. Gothicana by Runix. Nope. Crow by Azavarelli. Nope. From Luke Off with Love by Mariana Zapata. No. No. Literally for years. I've owned that book 4 years. Still no. Caution to the Wind by Gianna Darling. 7th book. And now number 8 is out. I'm 2 behind in that series. Still have not read it. Gravity by Sarah Kate. Nope. Still want to. Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Nope. What He Doesn't Know by Candy Steiner. Still want to. Torment by Dylan Page. We talked about this. Same with Saint by Sierra Simone. Oh, The Redemption by Nikki Sloan. I did read. Oh, and I didn't check this one off. Boom. I did read that one. Actually, I listened to the audiobook of it and I loved it. I actually can't check that one off. Hell yeah. Blame It on the Vodka by Fiona Cole. Nope, still want to. Kid by Jessie Hall. Nope, still want to. The Penalty Box by Odette Stone. We already know. And Hollow Heathens by Nicole Fiorina. Nope, still want to. Actually, even at the beginning when I was saying some of them, and I didn't say still want to, every single book that is still on this list that I have not read is still ones that I want to. Still ones that I'm invested in that I just have not gotten around to. But anyways, that is it for today's video. Is that everything? That's everything. This one I'm not looking forward to editing. It's just so many pictures to put in. You know, it's a lot of pictures to put in. So I don't know when this will actually go up. I'm filming this on Friday, which is normally when the video should be up. And then my grandparents are going to be in town for Christmas. So I'm not going to get to film it tonight. I'm not going to get to film it tomorrow. I don't know. It might be up on Sunday, unfortunately. We'll just have to see. But anyways, that is it for today's video. And I will see you when I see ya.